the grain switches on you, and you have to be aware of that. And this is a curved spoke shave that Lee Nielsen sells, but it's Brian Boggs. And I was in with Brian in his shop, and I said, Brian, I need a curved, because he still sells them, right? So he says, I got one, I'll sell you. So he then took it and filed this not as sharp. And he said, normally, most people don't do that, but you should file it less sharp. And they really want to sweeten the curve. And let's say that's nice and sweet. A lot of times I'll take sandpaper and a piece of plywood, use glue and glue it and then cut it. So if I wanted to even that out, now if it's a gentle curve, and I may use even stiffer, I may put two together. If it's not, if it's a sharper curve, I may use something that's more flexible.
It's a good idea.
But this helps work. Now naturally, it takes a little longer than that. You know, you're shaping. When I'm shaping, also I use a card scraper a lot. I live and die by card scrapers. Because the British say, I want to sweeten the curve. And I look at it and look at it and look at it and sweeten it and look at it a little bit more.
What you're sanding and scraping, you compare that to a pattern to make sure you have all the angles right?
Kind of close, but generally what I do is I can put two together. A lot of times it's to the left and the right. I can put two together in a vise and do that. And that works out pretty well. But when I say I'm fussy, I have a light with a magnifier. I'm fussy about it. It's got to be right. Okay. Oh. All right.
You're not a union technician.
You start talking about stacking.
Yeah. If that's what's oh yeah. In fact, I don't know. Some of you might have seen when the last time I was here. I had a bit of this stacked of the piece I might do, and I wound up finishing it not long ago. Put it in a show, and then it sold out of the show a couple months ago. But stacking, going a little too fast. Even though it appears, that it's all together, if it was all together at that shape, it would be really hard for me to work on it, to get in there. So the next two, it'll show you as parts, and I've got locating dowels. So now I can work on that, and then when it's time to really put it together, the locating dowels help me, and then I can do the finish sanding. Okay. So here's where I'm using scrub plane, I'm using a compass plane. Now this is the finished table, and it'll show in a show. That's in the show. Now there's a steel base, a glass top. The dark wood is ebonized oak. The dark wood is ebonized oak.
Down there. It's on the floor.
Yeah, but I'm going to show you how. Now, ebonized oak, I've been playing around with ebonizing a bit.
Does it matter red or white oak?
No, both work really well. Anything with a lot of tannin
What's the vinegar and steel wool
Yeah.
thing?
So I was gonna mention that you get a pad of steel wool, you clean it in alcohol, lacquer thinner, squeeze it out, let it dry in the sun, because steel wool has oil on it. Then you put it in a mason jar with vinegar, let it steep there for 2 to 3 days, and try it out. Now, all woods don't ebonize, but we're gonna ebonize this piece right now. So this is just a piece of oak, and I have, yeah, I have brush it with me here. So this is your solution. We're gonna try to put a little on here.
You know what, I don't know how long he's gonna be, he can hold it up, he can hold it up.
Now, I'll put a little bit more on, but you can get to the top.
Hey, Glenn,
Here's the top.
Glenn, I got a question.
Yeah,
When I've done that with oak, I often have problems with the solution going down into the pores, and they end up being lighter in color than the surface wood.
well, you can see what I have here,
Yeah,
and you can see a little bit, you can still see the grain.
okay.
But let me mention that, before you do this process, you should wet it, let the grain raise,
Okay.
sand it. All right, make sure that this solution is not gonna raise the grain, that you now have to sand it. But that's the piece I just did, we'll let it dry and then we'll pass it around. I usually take this and sometimes it has a powdery feel to it, and take a brush and brush it, and then you can finish it almost any way you want. It's really color fast.
Is that, if you do it again tomorrow, would it get darker?
I mean, it could. I've never done it twice though, but it could. And you really want to test it, because some kiln-dried oak that might have been around for a while may not have much tannin left in it. Generally what I do is my air-dried materials, but it does work with kiln-dried as long as you have to test it. If it doesn't get black, then you can brew some tea, strong tea, and that'll add tannin, rub it on, use that to raise the grain, right? Let it dry and sand it, and then do it again, and it won't raise the grain then, but the tannin will add. This piece is a piece I like, and it's basically the same technique I've shown, going from one to another.
What's the finish?
The finish is first ebonizing, and then it's rub-on Minwax polyurethane, about 6 coats. But when you see this in the sun, the wood is gorgeous. The wood, it just pops.
I find out when I do that, sometimes the pores don't take the ebonizing, and then I'll just touch it up with a little stain, you
You
find
could
have
do
to
that, yeah, you could take a little aniline stain or something like that. But generally, I don't find that too often.
After the steel wool has been in the vinegar, you said?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether it's white vinegar or red vinegar, it doesn't matter?
It's white vinegar.
White vinegar, you remove the steel wool?
Yeah, remove it, and you can strain it through a paint strainer and cheesecloth. That's what I did with that. Okay, so, yeah, we'll keep going on this. So who has the, you have the remote?
I do think it's checked.
I'm gonna charge you for this.
Don't worry, I have a good account with the club.
Now, why we're doing that, I brought this because it shows the exact opposite. This is bleached curly maple. I have one that's like this, and it's ebonized. Oh, right? No, it might be. I think it was ebonized Honduras mahogany. anyway, I called it Serafina, and then we call this one Serafina Blanc.
That's beautiful.
Straight Clorox painted on?
No, not Clorox. This is a wood bleach you can get. You can't get small amounts, it won't sell it to you.
This is the
have to get-
oxalic acid?
Salic acid.
Yeah, you have to get part A, part B, 2 gallons, costs you about $75.
Oh, no, that's
It
not
lasts for a
salic
long
acid.
time.
The crystals don't work, the salic acid
No.
crystals?
No,
I don't think this is oxalic acid, this is a bleach that we,
yeah, it's
It's a little
an
different.
actual wood bleach.
yeah, it's a lot stronger. I use it in the marine industry and you don't wanna get it on you.
You don't wanna get it on
No.
you. Frank's Cabinet Shop actually bleached the stacking up piece. All right, this is a commission I did a little while, well, now it's about 2 years, but seemed like a little while ago. I never met the client, it got sent out to North Carolina. And this was the initial sketch, and they didn't want this type of glass, they wanted that shape to fit in a spot. And here's how I started it. These are full-size plywood patterns, and I drew out all the laminae so I knew where to stack. And I started by saying that, whoops, let me go back. The laminate that comes through here and through here pretty much goes all the way through, so I started with the middle. So you can show them. So that's the middle, and then I'm working on. That's my shot back there. That's a short video, but I don't know if it would play. Yeah.
We can all head over. Turn your head sideways.
How do you work sideways? All right. I'm adding on bricks of material. But you can see, since everything is a crazy shape, how do you put clamps on it? And that's always like clamping gymnastics. So here I've got wedges, and in other slides, you can see, that's just to do one wedge, right? And then you can see getting it more together.
Glenn, just a question, you had talked about earlier about, as you added laminations, you were doing some sculpting, so
Right.
are you doing the same thing here?
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of
exactly.
Trying to shape it?
Trying to shape it. You can see how it's basically getting to shape. And I
Okay.
have patterns.
While you're putting that together,
Now-
you also pin it?
What's that?
When you're putting that together, do you also put pins in it to hold it?
Occasionally I do, because on some, I want it like separated so I can work on it and then put it back. And occasionally I do so that it may be slipping if I'm trying to clamp it. But you can see how this pattern now is on here? Because I'm refining it more. So that, now it's the right height. But you can see all of this. So I'm taking that out sometimes with a Sawzall or a small chainsaw, electric chainsaw.
Any way to get rid of wood.
Or I have an Arbortech grinder. Arbortech is nice. You actually do that outside most, yeah.
Do you worry about the grain pattern in between all the layers?
Yeah. Well, in this one especially, because the client wanted the ambrosia maple, which is also called wormy maple. So I want all the wormy spots on one side and the clear spots on the other, so you gotta keep looking through your materials to kind of randomly well balance. Well, it's not random anymore, it's replacing it. But you're trying to have that. Now, this is outside of Frank's Cabinet Shop. That's Frank's Cabinet Shop, and they've just bleached it.
Beautiful.
I was testing out the glass. I don't know if I have a really good finished photo of it.
It just lays on it,
What's that?
the glass.
The glass just lays, it's really heavy glass, it's 3/4 sapphire glass. It was $2,200.
Wow.
For the glass. All right, this is I know it's not a table, but we go back to, remember I talked about tables, all about the legs? Well, this cabinet was all about the leg. The leg drove me crazy. The design is really easy. And you see transparent, clear paper here?
Yeah.
It's because when I was showing the clients, I had different tops, right, and different bases, and I showed different aspects. They went with drawers on the bottom. Now, if the leg, and I have a lift-up leg somewhere. This is pretty close to what the leg is, not exactly, because I did a different foot here. This leg drove me crazy, so I made other mock-ups. And the reason it drove me crazy is this. I got it to 95, 96% where I liked it, but it wasn't where it needed to be. And so I kind of put it aside and tried other legs. And like I brought a couple that I tried. So I was thinking something like that with the Mozambique here. And that's how I put that piece in there. Ahead of time, I inlaid that, did the 45, put it together, and then cut that, and then I got that strip. So I figured, well, that's kind of cool. So I like that, so I wound up making 4 legs like this. Not this one, 4 nicer ones. Because I figured, well, I could always use them on another table, but I wanted to see how it worked. But then I still didn't like it, so I went back to this leg. And I even tried that, I even tried filling that. Right? But I went back to the original leg, and I talked with the client who I know. And I said, Stu, I'm not really liking the leg yet, so I'm experimenting. And really nice. He said, well, whatever you think. You know? So I went back, and here's how I did a lot of it. And I came up with this early, but then I came up with a couple other things that helped. But I set the saw to a stop for the one side, and then I moved the fence to the other side and did the other corner of it. So then I carved, and this is the bottom of it. Now that was a difficult thing because I had to have 4 pieces all come together out of 45 and have that cut. So I got those, you can buy them. It's a template inlay guide. It's about $35, brass. And it has a kind of a grommet, and then you take that off, and then it takes up for the thickness of the bit. And it worked out really well. I experimented with it, and so I was able to cut the recess and then cut the piece to fit that recess. And then I had to match it with a 45. So these are the sides of the cabinet coming together. And that's the box, dry fitting it. And that's the joinery for the top frame of the bottom, top frame of the bottom. Oh, let me go back to this. Now, I made a plywood box that fits in there with the back, sides, and bottom, because I wanted this, you got a lot of different surfaces, and they wanted wooden draw guides, so to make everything fit in 90 degrees back. And because the leg was 2 degrees, the fronts had to be done at 2 degrees. and they had to progressively go up. All right. That's gluing it up. These are corners, so I can keep it square.
So were the drawer sides angled at 2 degrees also? Was it in?
No, not the, because the box that I put in,
Okay, that was
Yeah, it's
square.
square.
Okay,
but the front had that.
yeah.
So here's plywood that I'm mocking it up. And that was a template to drill holes. Now, I hand carved all these handles. So there's my spoke shaves. And that's a little holder that I screw onto it. I left it up so I can hold it. And now, you notice that there's lots of Mozambique details. And I think I have,
It's in the box.
I was experimenting with that Mozambique detail. So I made about 3 or 4 of these little, I decided on this.
So just one more question, because
Yeah.
the legs that have the taper, I know how much work it is to get end grain on a radius like that clean, so you can put a finish on it. So just a lot of handwork would,
Yeah, and I had my light with the magnifier.
yeah, yep,
And I was using scrapers and needle files.
uh-huh. Tremendous amount of handwork.
And Glenn, is there another name for the Mozambique?
It's also called CJWA.
Oh, okay.
That's where when I first started using it. Now, go back. This is something that goes in and then gets screwed in, but this was to display a really interesting, unusual book collection and some artwork. And I figured if the doors are shut, the bottom rail, kind of, anything in there you'd have to look down on. So I figured it better to hold it up, and they wanted more storage anyway. So I did the storage, and you can lift it all the way up, where it come down, and then, oh, that's the bottom, but the center also can come up this way. See this, how the center can come up that way? So it can go up this way, and then it can go up that way. So I played around, I mocked it up, and I decided how to do it.
What kind of glass was in that cabinet face, the door?
Just regular sheet glass, tempered, but.
No concern about UV hitting the books?
Oh, well, they didn't have where sunlight was gonna hit it. Yeah, they didn't have where sunlight's gonna hit it. So that's, any other questions?